Hey everyone, let's talk about full face palettes. These are makeup palettes that can do just about anything in your collection. They are great for beginners or really anyone who just wants to simplify their routine by being able to grab one product, know that all of the colors are going to be coordinated and look nice together, but still give you a little bit of room to play. At least the palettes that I have picked do. Each of them has a little something different to offer, so I am sure everyone will have their favorites, and I'd love to hear which one is yours down in the comments below. But to do that, you really need to know what I picked, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first up, if this palette had a personality, I think it would be the Romantic. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Instant Look in a Palette Gorgeous Glowing Beauty. She has two of these out, and between the two, this is the rosier, cooler tone, which is what makes me sense more romantic vibes, right? You have these flushed, rosy tones in here, romantic mauve shades that are just a little bit more romantic than the original version, which is more straightforward taupes and neutrals. So this is a really great straightforward palette, even though things are labeled eyes, cheeks, face. So many of these would be flattering used elsewhere on the face. So you have three eye shades, a highlight, kind of a mid-tone crease shade, and then something to kind of amp up the drama over here. This one on the end is the only matte shadow here. Then you have two cheek shades, very similar to Charlotte Tilbury's Swish and Pop concept, where you'll put one shade across the broad part of your cheeks and then a pop of color on the apples or wherever is most flattering for you. And then there are two face shades here. One is more of a contour slash bronzer, a warmth shade, and the other is more of a highlight shade, and this is a really beautiful subtle highlighter. So one you don't need to worry about going over the top with. Very much a sort of soft focus filter on the skin. But I do have palettes that will give you that wham bam glow. The next palette gives you a little bit more flexibility. I would say it is more of like a custom classic sort of vibe. And also one that I think is very underrated here on YouTube. This is the Linda Hallberg Infinity palette, and I think it's because at face value it's very unassuming. You get the gist that there are bronzers, kind of contoury shades, blushes, and highlights. But what I only began to appreciate once I had it, because I only recently picked this up like a month ago and it's been out for quite some time, but once I had this and I realized how easy it was to customize your bronzer slash contour shade and then also use those same shades for your brows, I realized that this is capable of so much more than I think people realize when they first see it. So for example, when I use these shades on my face, I will actually take a combination of the warmer shade that alone would be way too warm for my skin tone, and I mix it with this cigar shade down here. That gives me kind of a warmer bronzy shade that's appropriate for the perimeter of my face, and then as I get more into where I would want a contour or a shadow, I increase the amount of the cooler shade here as I get closer into my face, and I think it makes for a much more natural looking bronzing and shading of my entire face. Then you also have the choice between whether you want a cooler blush or a warmer peachy blush, and similarly with the highlight. So you really just have an opportunity to mix and match and customize to not only what you want, but what's like appropriate for your skin tone. And not only that, this is the fair light version. She also has a medium deep. So this is not meant to be for everyone. She further personalizes it depending on your skin tone. So do not underestimate this hidden gem. Next up is a classic, and the one that everyone, when I shared a teaser of this on Instagram, all of you guys recognized this one palette, and honestly, it needs no other name. It is the Emily Edit, The Needs. She created this in partnership with Revolution, and she put in every shade that she thought someone would need in their morning routine. So she made the face pans large enough to get a face brush in. You have a bronzer slash contour, bronzer if you just kind of want it all in one, a peachy blush shade, a beautiful soft focus highlight. This is actually the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes and face today, so you can get a feel for the highlight. Very layerable, but still natural looking, not blinding, not strobing, I wouldn't say. And then you also have this matte cream tone to highlight as well. And then you have your 6 eyeshadow shades here, where she's included a ton of mattes, which are great for getting a classic contoured eye shape, as well as the shade Passion here in the center, which is a smoky blackened plum shade. It's super beautiful, and really I think is what makes this an essentials palette, not just for the daytime, but but also the night as well. You could pop this in your bag for touch-ups, and if you have an event or some place where you want to inject some more drama into your look, you just reach for some of these deeper shades here and you create a liner, or you really smoke that look out, and this becomes your needs for everything all the time. Now the Needs palette keeps it pretty neutral with subtle blush tones, so if you want a little bit more color in there, you're gonna like this next one. This is the Ofra Cosmetics Pro Boho palette, and they have a couple of different kinds of palettes in this configuration if this color story doesn't speak to you, but this is what called my name when I saw it. And I said this in my original review of it, but the pictures of it online just do not do this palette justice. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's wonderful warm neutrals, but you also get shimmery berries with the gold undertone, this amazing mustard shade over here, beautiful bronzes and rose golds. Overall a very warm leaning palette, but does give you a little bit more color to play with. And the amazing thing is, or what I think is interesting and unique about it anyway compared to the other palettes I'm talking about here today, is that it's magnetic. So you can see the little notches in here, you can pop these pans out, and it also means that you can pop other pans in here. If you have other pans from Ofra or other brands that happen to fit in here, you can customize this to whatever color palette you want. Because honestly, one of my criticisms, I think when I first reviewed this, was like, these highlights are very similar. This is slightly cooler and icy and pink, this is slightly more golden, but they're very, very similar when worn. And the same with the bronzer shade versus this very warm terracotta blush shade up here. But if you have other blushes or bronzers or highlights that fit these pan shapes, or even smaller for these giant pan shapes, pop them in there and you're good to go. And this, by the way, is the palette that you want to reach for if you want an absolutely blinding highlight. I would say this and the next one I'm about to talk about, the rest are very soft focus, but if you want to be seen from outer space, this is what you want. Oh, actually, before we move on, I don't want to ignore the fact that you not only get blushes, eyeshadows, highlight, and bronzer in here, you also get a little pressed banana powder if you enjoy using that, as well as 2 brow shades, or just matte powders if you want to use them, but they are very nice for brows because you have a warmer deep brown, you have a mid-tone cool taupe, like just very nice brown shades, as well as great deep matte shades. So again, a palette that can do just about everything. And last up, speaking of a palette that can do just about everything, this one will not only do your makeup, but it'll make you smell good too. This is the Physicians Formula and Casey Holmes collaboration palette, where you get blush, bronzer, and highlight in the butter formula. So the highlighter is that beautiful, like putty texture that is, again, another blinding highlight. And Copacabana, which is maybe the deepest shade I've ever seen in their blushes, so it really pops without very much layering at all. And then you get 4 shadow shades here. I do think the 2 in the center are awfully close together. Like when I first reviewed this, I said I would have loved to see something a little bit different, but the contrast so beautifully against the green that is in here, which is kind of like a slightly sheer green shade, but still serves as a great pop of color and contrast to all of the red tones in here. Then you also get one of their butter lipstick formulas. This is in the shade Pop the Bubbly, super comfortable, but still a good amount of pigmentation in here. And then you get their Butter Paradise scent, which I personally really like. I wasn't sure what to expect when they first came out with it, and it is one that I really enjoy. And it's not one that I would just wear in summer. It struck me as a little bit more complex. It doesn't just smell like coconut like the butter bronzers do. It has some depth in there that lasts with you throughout the day, and it isn't just like sweet coconut that kind of goes away immediately. There's some really nice depth in there that has nothing to do with making up your face, but in case you were curious about the scent, those are my thoughts on it. The only downside to this is that it is a little bulky for what it contains, like all of this space around the eyeshadows, but you could easily depot these and pop them in a freeform palette and be right on your way. So let me know, which of these palettes do you like best or already own? Some of them have been out for quite some time, so you probably already have them and love them and use them in your collection all the time. Let me know down in the comments below, and if you want more videos like these, check them out in one of these over here. Besides that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys!